So for today meeting, I will uh, explain. We will learning together still about cascading style sheet or CSS part 2. Why there is part 2? Because if we learn it just in 1 week, I think there are so many things that we have not covered just in 1 week. So we will learn it in 2 weeks. And maybe in the last week you are learning about the basic, and for today we also continue about the basic, but also we will try to make responsive web design. So we will flashback. What is CSS? So CSS is simple programming language which is used to arrange or manage style on web page. So if you want to make your web page look more beautiful, have neat layout, have a beautiful color, beautiful design, you can add the CSS. So for using CSS, you can put it in the head. In the head tag, you can add style, or maybe you can add another file name with extension CSS. So don't don't be confused. So CSS is a file, not a folder. I think some of you in the last week meeting have confused about .css or CSS file. So it's a file, it's the extension, not the folder. So if you have make a CSS file, so you can make a new file and save it with the extension .css. When we are using CSS, we can change font type. Maybe you have tried this font size, giving background image or background color, and we can setting the width height of elements. And also in today meeting, we also will learn about make responsive web page. So first we will try make it position in CSS on. We also trying to apply overflow and float in CSS. We also will making design that responsive. So maybe while I'm explain, I will also will give example of the topics. So first, I will explain about position in CSS. So position in CSS is used to set the position of an HTML element. The CSS position property is used to determine the position of an HTML element as desired. So to set or to manage the position, you must using position properties. So to make use position property, you must write a position like this property, and then you can add the value. So there are 4 value in the position. There are static, relative, fixed, absolute, and sticky. So in general, to create a position or set the position of an element, we can set with left, top, bottom, right. But before that, we must add the position property first. Okay, so for example, if you want to add something space in left or in top, we can set the position. First, we must add the property position and the value, and then we can add something like this, left, bottom right width border. So maybe you asking what difference between margin, padding. We have tried this in the last meeting. If we have padding margin, it's actually to set an element, the width of the margin or and the width of the padding. But for position, we don't need to adding padding or at the margin. We still can give space for that element with another using position real using position attribute or position properties. Okay, so this is the example. It has many value for the position. The first is position static. So static is the default. If you are not adding position attribute or position properties, actually it's set static. Okay, so the default is static. If you add static, of course it won't give any space. It doesn't have any space between the element with the screen. And there is relative. If relative, we will add some space or some blank space between screen and the element. We can set it in the left, right, top, or bottom. And in the fix is the place that can be changed. Maybe I will give the example after this. And they are absolute and sticky. So for using this position, of course, you must make an HTML file first. So this is the HTML file. Don't forget to add the head and the body text, and you can also add the title. And then because the position is styling, so we must set the styling value or the CSS properties in a CSS file. So I also make CSS file like this. This is style position.css like this. And then in the head, you must add the link. So if you add the link, this HTML file will apply the CSS or the styling in this file. Okay, like this. And this is the first. We try to make position static. And I make a different class. Maybe you still remember our last week meeting, we have class or ID. In here, we will add class. So class is used to identify an element. So if this element, we give the class to set the style of this element, we just need to write the name of the class. So it can be like this, or we can also add the tag. Okay, this is static. So for static, the properties position, the value of these properties is static. Okay, so for the first is static, and for the second is relative. I also add the class relative. So this div, this section will apply the styling of the relative class. So here, so for the value of the position properties, we put it relative here. And We can also add the space that we want to give between the element with the screen. So this is, I give 30 px. So maybe I will open my browser. Okay, I will show you how about the static and relative. Okay, so maybe I forget, uh, I don't give you example before. So we can add comment in our HTML file. So if we add that code as comment, that code won't be rendered. It won't be show in your browser. To add the comment, we can add like this. Like this. It's the opening tag and the closing tag is like this. Okay, so you will see the green font. This green font won't be rendered to our uh, to our to our browser. Okay, so for this I will try the position static first and relative. Any question first? No? So you can make a new folder for today course, and this is the example. This is static. So if static, it will show like the default. You can see here all the element here have a little space between the element with the screen. Okay, this is the screen, the white board here. The white here is the our screen. So if we add the position static, it will still like this, like a default. But for relative, if it's relative, it you can add the space between the element with the screen. If you see here, there is some space here. Why it has space? Because in the relative we add the left, so it has a space in the left 30 pixels from the screen. Okay, so if I want to add the space in the right, I also can add that, maybe like this. Don't forget to save and reload it. Why? Hmm, I don't know why, but it's like this. So you can also add the position. Why it's not reload here? Okay, so it will be like this. The first I add in the left, and the second I change it with the right. So if I give the right space, it will be like this. Some of this will be hidden. It will be disappear from our screen because the space in the right. So for you, if you have any problem like me, like this, I reload it, but nothing happened. Why it happened? Because our browser usually have a cache. Maybe you have ever heard about cache. So if we have cache, our change sometimes can be reload. So how to reload it? You can open new private windows or incognito and run it in your incognito tab. Okay, so this is a tip. If your styling not change after reload, you can open it in new private window and run it there. So if we using incognito or private window or private tab, usually it always reload the new file. Okay, so if you have a same problem with me, you can using like this. Okay, so this is about static and relative. How about fixed? So uh, I will give you example about the fix. So this is the fix. In the fix, I add class name fix, and for the styling, the value of the position properties also set fix, and we can add bottom right, bottom and right space, or we also can add left and top also. And this is the width of the element, and we also add the border. So I will try to open it. Where is the fixed element? So the fixed element is here. It's in the bottom right corner. So this is the fixed position. It will be here. Even if I zoom out or zoom in, it will still here. Okay, so this is fixed. It has fixed position. And the third is absolute. So what is absolute? Absolute actually it's like a relative, but for relative, the space, maybe you see the relative, the space is between the screen and the element. But for absolute, I will try it. Absolute, the space is not for the element with the screen, but the element with another element. So for absolute, usually you have another element, and the position is depending or according to another element. So if you see here in the absolute, actually I have two elements. The first element is div with class relative to, and the second is the class with absolute. So the absolute here will have absolute position, to div class relative to. So for the styling, I need to add two class. The first class is for the first element here, and the second is for element that has absolute value in the position properties like this. So this is to setting the space between the element with another element. So here we add top, right is 0. Okay, maybe I will try another. We try like this. The top is 0. Okay, you see here it or bottom, maybe I will try. The top is 30 maybe. So it's another problem. I reload it but nothing changed. So for this, like this, you open the incognito or private windows. Okay, so you can see here the first is the div here relative 80 pixel to another element, but for this I changed from 80 to 30. So the position have 30 pixel space between this element with another element. Okay, so this is position, and the last is sticky. What is sticky? Okay, so this is the sticky. For sticky, you also add a new element here like this, and you must add a class. Here I add class name sticky, and I also add the styling here. So for sticky, there is position. Why there is two WebKit and just the sticky? Because if we run it in the old browser, maybe the second one can be rendered. So the first one is for running this code in the older browser. So maybe you are not updating your browser for a little while, it still can run. Okay, actually it's similar with other, just the position we change it with sticky. So for making this sticky, here I add many paragraphs, or you can also add your own sentence or your own example, because it's just a long paragraph here. So, okay, like this, and I will run. Okay, I run here. So this is the sticky. If you see it, it's still change. The position of the sticky is still change. But if I scroll again until the end of page, it just stick to top of the screen. So this is sticky. So the sticky can change between fixed, like this is it's similar with this fixed position. It can change between stick and static. Okay, so if we see here, it's just like static, but if I scroll until here, it change to fixed. Okay, so this is sticky. Okay, any question for position in CSS?
None, ma'am.
No?
And
Okay, so I will go on the next topic. So far, the next is dimension and overflow. So maybe dimension is just dimension units of dimension that we can use it for styling or set the width and height of our element. So for dimension, we can setting width or height for our element. We have tried this from the first week, I think. And to set the height and width, we can use this many units like this. This is pixel percent. So if we using pixel like our example before, it the width, the height will be in pixel units. And percent, if percent, it's relative to our screen. So if 100%, it will be full in our screen. If you add maybe 60%, of course it will be half of your screen. So percent is relative. It depends on the width of your screen. And we can also using inch and centimeters, millimeter, point, or PC. But usually for making website, we just using the first and the second px or pixel and the percent. For font size, usually we using pt or point. Okay, so this is the units that we can use for styling or setting the height and the width of our element. And other than that, our element can be overflow. So if you see the picture here, if I have an element and already set the height and the width of that element. For example, this element have this height and this width, but the content of this element is this much, so the content will be overflow. So overflow is when the element, the width and the height of this element can can you can fill your paragraph or something like this. You can see here. Okay, so there is some value for overflow. There is visible, auto, hidden, and scroll. So if auto, this is the default. If you have this overflow element, the content, you can still see the content, although this content will be overflow or out of the box or out of the size of the element. And for, oh, I'm sorry, this is visible, so default is visible like this. If this overflow, you can see the content of the element. And the second is auto. It will add scroll if content is not enough, and hidden. So if hidden, if we have overflow content like this, it will be disappear or it will be invisible to see. And the last is scroll. There will always have scroll whether content is sufficient or not enough. So I also give the example here. So this is our HTML. After that, we also make a new CSS file here to adding the style and using properties overflow. And this is the content. And okay, this is the div. So in the style overflow, we will set the div here or the section here. The section here, we will set it. It will have a width and height. you see here the width is 200 px and the height is 60 px, and we also add the border to see the area of this div or this tag. And then we adding the properties overflow here. So the first one, I will set the properties visible. Okay, like this. I will run overflow. So you can see here, this is our div. Actually, the width and the height is just this much, but I have the content. The content is have many lines. So if this overflow visible, although it's out of the area, you still can see the content like this. Okay, so I will try to using another value or the of overflow auto, for example. So if auto, it will add scroll here. It is overflow, it will add scroll. But how about this? Maybe I just have this much like this. So if I have this much, you can see here, the scroll will be disappear because this content is not overflow. So auto just adding the scroll when the content is overflow. Okay. And next I will try the value hidden, maybe hidden here. So if you see here, when hidden, the overflow here will be disappear. You can see again the content of overflow lines. Okay, so for next, I will try scroll. So scroll is actually same with the auto. It will adding scroll here, but how if the content just a little lines like this? Although it's not overflow, but if we using scroll value in the properties, it's still adding something like this, like the scroll for scrolling. So that's the differences between auto and scroll. Okay, so this is example of overflow element. Any question? No?
None, ma'am.
Okay, next. The next is float. Float in CSS. So what is float? Actually, floating is one of the requirement. Usually, if we make a website, usually we must add the float. So this is the example. If you see, if we are not adding the float, usually all of our page will be show in the next line. So for maybe I will try like this. If we are not using float, all of the element will be shown in the next line. So this is for first element, and the next element will be a new line like this until the end of the element, the last element. But if we add the float, we can put the another element in the horizontal lines, so it's not adding in the next line, it's not in vertical, but it will add the element in horizontal inside side by side like that. So usually, for example, this is the header. So usually if you have a content, you maybe will add a sidebar like this. So if we are using float, our sidebar and the main content can be side by side, and you don't need to add something like table, something like that. We just need using div tag and adding properties float. In its simple use, float usually using for wrap text around an image. So if the value is left, floating element to the left of the container in the left, so the floating element will be on the left. If right, it will float to the right of container. No one, if default, it doesn't float. And inherit. Inherit if there is tag inside the tag. So the tag inside or the second tag will be follow the first tag. Okay, this is the example. Okay, this is the example. Float. Okay, here I am at a picture. I'm at a picture beside the paragraph, and you must add like usual. You add new CSS file, and it will have properties float like this. So you can see here the one that we want to add properties float is the image. So this image will overflow. This image will overflow to the next element. Okay, so I will try to run it float. Okay, okay, so this is the example. You see here float none. If none, it will be default like usual element. So if I have image and I have the paragraph, this paragraph will be put in the just one line in the side, and the other will be enter in the next line. But if I add the float here, for example left, we will see here. Okay, I'm sorry. I will using the incognito again. Okay, you can see here, this image will be float. So this image will be side by side with this paragraph. So this is if the image I set float left, how about the value is right? So if right, of course, it will be in the right. Okay, so maybe you will you will need the float for something like this. So your image not in the different line with your paragraph, but it can show up side by side. Your image and your paragraph can be shown in the same horizontal lines like this. So this is float. Okay, any question for float? No?
None, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
Okay, so after this, usually we have 10 minutes break. After this, you can break, and after the break, maybe you can try the job sheet here from the part 1 until part 3. Okay. So for next, we will try to make responsive web design. Okay. What is responsive web design? So responsive web design is a web design that will look great on any device, whether it's computer, mobile, or tablet. Why it will look good? Because it will change the design or the appearance according to device that we use. So if you can see here, uh, web the design when we open the web page in the desktop like this, like the first image, it has menu and sidebar. And if you see the second, if we open it in the tablet, we will change the layout. So the information will be still can we see. Also, we have different device to open it. So like this, maybe the sidebar in the right will be changed. It will be placed in the below like this. And if we open it in the phone, as you can see, the menu in the left will be full like this in the top, and the content will be in the next in the center, and the below will be the sidebar. So you don't need to scroll horizontally, because scroll horizontally is not a good user experience actually for web browser user. So you must uh, you must make the web design that not no need to scroll horizontally. Just the user can scroll vertically only, because uh, when we use we must scroll horizontally. Usually there is information missing. Okay. Okay, so like this, I will give you example of the all the not responsive. So maybe this is our example like this. This is our web page that I have write in the previous example in the previous. So okay, I will give you another example that okay, so if you see maybe it not show. Okay, so if you see here, because I open it in screen computer, it will be you will be look full information. It has header here, menu here, and there is sidebar. There is something in the right. But if I change, I resize the if I resize the screen or the browser, as you can see here, I resize the browser in smaller size. You can see here the content in this website is still same. So I will lose that there will be information loss in the right. So I must scroll horizontally like this to see what inside in the right part of this page. So it won't be convenient for user, or if we want to see all of this content of this web page, maybe we can zoom out like this. but the information, the font here, the image here will be so small. Okay, so it's not good user experience for reader. But on the other hand, if you see here, okay, maybe this page, this website has applied the responsive web design. So if I open it in my computer, okay, like this, so I can see there is header here and there is menu in the top. Also we have menu in the left. Also there is some advertisement and another thing in the right. Okay, like this. If I resize, so why I resize the screen? Because I can show you when I open in phones or in the tablet, because I just share screen in laptop. So I resize here to give example when we open it in the smaller screen. So for example, I resize the browser size like this. If you see here, the sidebar in the left will be disappear, but if we click in, it's still, you can see here, it will be show here. And something in the right like this also disappear if I resize it. But when I scroll, actually the information still here. It's make a new line. It will be below here. Okay. So if we see it, it's more easier for the user to read or to view this website when this website is responsive than when we have the website that not responsive like this, because we must scroll to right. If we use this, especially if we open it in the phone browser, it will be easier. We can still see all of the information just with scrolling to the below. Okay, so this is the example why we must make our website responsive. Okay, any question? So our responsive website will have different layout depend on the device that we use. Okay, it is clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, next. So how to make our website to be responsive? The first that we need to define is we must add the viewport. What is viewport? Viewport is the area of the web page that is visible to user. So viewport is actually our browser screen. All of this browser screen actually is a viewport. So if we resize, we make it smaller like this. So the viewport is in this uh, area. It has this width and this height. So actually we can change the viewport when we resize our browser. Okay, so we need to add this tag meta name viewport first when we want to make a responsive web page. So we can add it in the head tag like this. Okay, so this is the example. In the head, you can add something like this: meta, name, and viewport. So it's a default value. You can change viewport here because viewport is to define that this web page will be responsive web page. And for the content, width equal to device width. What the mean? What is the meaning of this? So if we set width equal to device width, so if we change the browser size, the viewport also will change with the size of the browser. So the viewport can change depend on the size of the browser. Set the page width to follow the device screen width. Okay, so if I open it in the computer, so the device width will be same with my computer screen. And when I open it in the phone, the width here will be same with my phone screen. So it can change depend on the device that we open. So it must be put the value width equal to device width. Of course, also if I open it in the computer, although my computer screen is still same, but the device width will be same with the browser width. Okay, so after that, we also add initial scale equal to 1.01 equal to 1. So it means that we set the initial zoom level when the page is first loaded by the browser. So the value one here means that we are not zoom out or zoom in. It's 100% same with the size that we want. Okay, so this is the value when we using screen that less than 576 pixel, or usually we make it 600 pixel. It called that the device is extra small. Okay, so we will make a type. We will cluster the the screen with this category. So if the first category is extra small is smaller than 576, and we can call it small when it more than this but still less than 768, and we can say it's medium when it's more than 768, and large like this, and extra large if more than 1200. So usually extra small is for the phone that has small screen, and small is the usual uh, handphone screen, and medium can be the phone that has larger screen or tablet. Tablet is medium, and large is for computer monitor, and extra large for computer monitor more than 14-inch, I think. Okay, so this is the category of the width, the device width. Okay, so if we change the screen, it the browser will be checked our screen is in extra small, small, medium, large, or extra large. Okay, any question first?
None, ma'am.
Okay, so and then there is grid view. What is grid view? Actually, when we make a responsive web page, we usually divide our screen into some column like this. So using grid view is very helpful when we designing web page because it make it easy to place element on a web page. Usually if we have responsive web page, we have 12 column. So in one screen, in one page, we divide it into 12 column. And if we change the screen, if we change or resize the browser, this width, this column width will be get smaller or get larger depend on what we do in the browser. If we make it smaller, of course the width of the column will be smaller, but if we make it bigger, the the column width also will be larger. Okay. Here is written, it will shrink and expand when the browser windows is resized. Okay, so this is also the example when using responsive web page, we can use media query. So media query is to make a breakpoints. Breakpoints is to see this part or this section would be show in the browser depend on the device. So for example, like the previous image, if we using breakpoints, this in this desktop, all of this will be side by side like this. But we can add media or breakpoints if the device smaller like this, if this device smaller than, for example, 768px, so the element in the side will be put below, something like that. Okay, we will try it after this. Any question first?
None.
No, you can try it after this. Okay, so this is the example. Okay, first we will creating responsive grid view. Okay, so maybe you will be little bit confused when we using a responsive web page. Usually we will divide the screen with 12 column. So it will be like this. If we will define it in the style or in CSS file. So for the column 1, the width is 100 divided by 12 or 8.33%. And for column 2 is the column 1 add one more column. Maybe I will open Excel. So you can imagine if I have okay. Okay, so I will try it in Excel. So imagine from So imagine from column 1 until 12, this is your screen. So if I want to make an element, just one column, so I can using this column 1 with the width of the screen is 33%. And for example, if I want to make it this is, for example, this is the menu and this is the content. So you can see here we have two elements here. So for the first element, you can using call tree because it consists of tree, and for the something in here, we can use call line because it actually consists of 9 columns. So this is the how to choose what column that will you using in your web page. For example, again, if I want add something here, here is maybe I want add the sidebar. So you can see here it's actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So for the element or for the something in the center, it will be called 7, and for the element in the right will be called 2, something like that. So this is how you use 12 column in one page. For example, again, maybe this is our screen, but you don't want to put something here. You want to add something in here. Or you want to put something only in here. I'm so sorry. What I use, okay, and you add something here and you want to make it just plain like this, so it's you can also using something like this. So for the element in the left is called 2, and for element here is called 9. So you can not you can to not using that left in the here. Okay, so this is how you choose what column that you will be display in your web page. Okay, so actually it's important thing because it's 12 is 100 divide 12. But for example, if you just want to divide your web page in 5, for example, but in responsive usually you have 12, you want to make your design unique, you just want to using 6 column, you can also use something like this. So if I add menu here, for example, and the content here, so if you can see here, it's called 4, and I'm so sorry, it's called 2, and here is called 4, but the width here will be different. So for call 1, you must have 100 divided by 6. Okay, so for the call 2 will be like this, 2. Okay, and for the next it will be like this. Oh no, for So the width here, it can be different depend on how many columns that you want to have in your web page. Okay, any question about the width of the column and how to divide the column in your web page? If we want to use responsive web page. Confused with my explanation? Oh, no one answer me. Maybe you still process this. Okay. And I will continue to here. So here I will make an HTML file and we will apply responsive web page. So if you see here, we will have tag meta name viewport content like this and initial scale is 1. Okay, and don't forget to add the style file. So you must make a new CSS file. And then here, this is the header. Okay, and this is row. And this is the important thing. You see here, there are menu here. This is the menu and this is the content. If you see here, this is using call 3 and this is using call 9. It's same with that I give you the example before. So you can see here, in responsive we have 12. So if this call 3, so this menu will be this big, and the remaining call 9, because it has 9, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and the remaining will be the content. So next, if we open it in browser, it will have this kind of column. Okay, so this is why here we using call 3 and here we has call 9. Okay, after that you can add this box sizing. So box sizing property set to border box. Like we make an element in the box or box size or in the box shapes like this border box. So if we're using this, padding and border are included with total width and height of element. Okay, and then you just can add this row, class, column, and all of this. It all on the CSS file. Okay, something like this. I have make it before this class. And then if you have finished, you can try this. Okay, I'm sorry. Let's pick 3, create. Okay, so this is our responsive web page that we try to make in our practice. So if you see here, the header will be full because we not divide it in any column. But for the menu and for the content, if you still remember here, we adding the class call 3 and call 9. So it will be 3 column and the remaining here, it will be 9 column. Okay, we will try to resize it. If you see here, I'm sorry, Is my voice clear? You can hear my voice?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry because I think my connection is unstable. Then okay, then like this. This is the full screen. I will demonstrate it if maybe this is a tablet screen like this. It will be like this. The menu will be shrink, but the pro proportion between the menu and the co content is still same. It's 3 and this 9. Okay, if we try to make it smaller, it will be same like this. It's also the 3 column and the content 9 column. Okay, so the size will be different, will be changed depending the width of your screen or your browser. Okay, so this is the example of the grid using grid. Any question?
None, ma'am.
Not yet. Okay.
Ma'am.
So I will next to another example. Okay. So this is the example to add breakpoint. I don't know why I can hear my own voice. Okay. Mm, So this is the example using breakpoint. When we add breakpoint, we will define media only screen like this, like max width is with something value here. So if we open in different device, it will show different too. So for example, here we define for small, or extra small device, max width is less than 600 px, and then this is the small, more than 600 but less than 700, and the this is the medium like tablet, mean width is 700. This is big or large device, and this is extra large device. Okay, so that's why in the CSS we must define the max width like this. So in different device it will be show different. And you see here, this is the class example. So if you see here that this class example, if we have different different width, the background will be changed. Okay. Okay, I will make it. So maybe I will copy it here. Okay, so for the name is, what is this, media. This is breakpoint. Okay, for this, I want add the CSS file, so I will add the styling here in the tag head. I will add style tag here, so like this, and I will give this styling. So the name of the class is example. If you're using class, don't forget to add the dot over there, and padding 20 px, color white. So for the default, it will have the white color, and then we will check it. We check it with using add media like this, media only screen, and next width like this, next width 600 px. Okay, so it will change. Example, and the background will be red. Okay, I will copy it. So in here, min with background will be green. I'm sorry, I add extra semicolon. Here is min and I will add another tool for large and extra large screen. Like this. Orange, and here is pink. So in the, you see in the here, we add the class. So I also will add the class here. Okay. Class is example. Okay. Now I will try to run it. The name is breakpoint. So this is like this. You see here, the color is orange. If we check here, orange is the screen have min width 900 something this. So because my screen is a large screen, not extra large computer, so I can show you the pink because it just large screen. And then we will try to make it medium. Okay, we can try it. If medium, it will be blue. So you see here, if my screen have this width, it will be show blue. And if we make it smaller, it will be green. Green is for small. And if I make it smaller, it will be red. So red is extra smaller. Okay, so it will be like that. It will be changed depend on the width of the screen. So you can also change the maybe the position, the float, or the font, something like that. Because this here we just change the background. Maybe you can add something different if you want it change when it has different size or different width. So this is the breakpoint will be changed depend on the screen. If you see the one before, this is not changed, it's still the same. It's same with the same proportion too, because we're not adding the breakpoint. It just showing smaller like this will be smaller, but nothing change, not like here. So if we want to make the change more apparent, we can add the breakpoint. Okay, so this is the breakpoint. And we also can add image in responsive web design also. And we can also add the video. So if you see here, maybe if you upload the video, it will be too big and our e-learning can process it. So for the video here, you can just screenshot. You can screenshot in the question number 19, but you don't need to upload your video. So like our practice before, you must add or must upload your file. But for part 7, for the video, here you don't need to upload your video, just screenshot your result in the browser. Okay, so for the video and image, I want to give you example. You can try it yourself. But actually the concept is same. When we add the meta viewport here, the device width, if we change the device width, so the content of our web page will be changed too. And we can also change another if we add the breakpoint like this. So in our phone, in our tablet, in our screen in computer, our web page still look good, still look great, and we don't need to scroll horizontally. We just need to scroll vertically. That's the point of the responsive web page.